Close encounter with a flesh-eater. Interview with a human sex guru. From Heat Infocast issue 211. Good news for adventurous copulators everywhere. The Assembly's newest member species loves sex. In fact, they might be the horniest beings in the known galaxy, aside from your sweet selves, of course. Now the bad news. The horniest beings in the known galaxy also happen to be classified as weapons in 5 systems and counting. I'm talking, of course, about the humans. They really do seem to have something for everyone. If the rippling muscles, lush manes, and expressive eyes don't excite you, then the sense of danger from laying in the clutches of the legendary Ultra Predator certainly will. However, if we're going to fuck and be fucked by the galaxy's most dangerous game, we should probably know what they like to put where. And who better to ask about their bodies than one of them? In the interest of educating our readers, we spoke with a human physician about love, anatomy, and the mating habits of everyone's new favorite sex monsters. Please note that although Dr. Martinez is a real doctor, this article is for entertainment purposes and is not medical advice. Thank you so much for coming. Tell us a little about yourself. Of course. My name is Antonio Martinez. I'm a B-Free licensed medical consultant specializing in interspecies sexual health, and I've been practicing in this system for 19 cycles. I've been following your infocast for some time, and I couldn't be more honored to speak on behalf of my species and our sex lives. 19 cycles is a long time for a human, right? What's it been like as a human living in tech-eye-kecky space? Any particular challenges? It's been wonderful. There's an amazing community of off-worlders and local-born aliens here, and working with them has been an absolute privilege. As for challenges, well, for every ignorant person, there are 10 who don't have a bigoted nerve in their nervous system. I really do love this place. So, what if I showed up in your office and said, Doctor, I have a human lover who says he wants to use every hole and appendage on my body. What should I do? Well, first of all, I would advise talking to your partner about boundaries and consent. Also, I strongly recommend against using every hole and appendage. Getting bodily fluids somewhere it shouldn't be can result in a very painful experience and a very embarrassing hospital visit. That's something that even same-species couples need to know. I wish you'd been around to give me that advice when I was just a bug. Oh, believe me, sex education is one of the most important parts of my job. It's not just yous who need it. Safe interspecies sex isn't common knowledge, which is why organizations like Socio-Sexual Health Network are so important. Speaking of safe sex, what kind of dangers should we be aware of if we want to have sex with humans? Well, a Scifi like yourself would need disposable protection to prevent sweat from getting into your spiracles. Your partner would also need to be careful around certain areas where human grip strength can cause fractures or bruising. On the other end, humans have a lot of exposed membranes and soft tissue that gets irritated easily by Scifi bodily fluid. Plus, the more biocompatible a couple is, the more important it is that they inoculate against each other's microbiomes. What species comes to you most often for advice about sex with humans? A good majority are servant-type Alveoli. Alveoli are the most biocompatible with humans, which means they're also the most likely to have intimate relations with humans. Wait, the most common pairing is servants and humans? How is it possible for a non-breeder phenotype and a sociosexual species to be together? Ah, you're bringing up a common misconception about Alveoli non-breeders. Servant types and outrider types may not be driven by pleasure, but they can certainly have fulfilling experiences with those who are. I once contributed to a study that measured hormonal responses from servant types, giving pleasure to their love-bonded interspecies partners. It's very similar to what humans experience during sex. But what about the human who's been courted by a non-breeder type? Wouldn't the human reject the bond? It's common for sociosexual beings to reject servant and outrider courtship, yes, but humans are actually quite a bit more receptive than most. Humans can engage in sociosexual activity, but adolescent humans have an instinct to bond into breeding pairs, much like how young Alveoli feel the urge to bond into circles and lodges. It's a great cosmic coincidence, really. Their similar bonding instincts can lead them to bond with each other. Human breeding pairs sharing the same bond as a servant and queen? Who knew? Can you reveal anything else that might make our readers rethink what they know about interspecies action? What I always tell people is that once you stop focusing on what makes us different, you'll start seeing what we have in common. My best example is that around 10% of humans practice a form of RVRLI, phenotype deviant behavior. Is that the word I'm looking for? You mean servants bonding with outriders? Yes, and any number of other alternative arrangements. Like I said, around 10% of humans do the same. And that number has been constant throughout our history. Sexual health is important for all beings of all lifestyles, including deviant and interspecies relations. If a servant can bond with an outrider, why not a servant and a man? Is there anything you would like to say to our audience before we wrap this up? Two things, if that's okay. First, I might make it sound like interspecies sex is some kind of complicated, dangerous undertaking, but at the end of the day, my job is to make sure you have a good time. We should value pleasure, instead of the, well, if you absolutely must attitude that most education programs have. If they're comfortable with it, I send my patients off with recommendations for positions, toys, foreplay, and aftercare, sometimes even relationship advice. But if I could say one thing to the whole galaxy, one thing to be what everyone knows me for when I'm gone, I would want to say that interspecies relationships are such a beautiful form of peace and interconnection. We have different numbers of limbs, we breathe different air, sometimes we can't even touch without the help of modern technology. But every day my patients prove that we somehow learned how to love each other. What's the craziest situation you've run into in your line of work? It's a little hard to answer that without violating confidentiality. I know. A Scrivesi friend once came to me saying he wanted to arrange a multi-species swinger party. He even used the human word for it. No idea where he learned the concept, but he was so excited by the idea that I agreed to do everything in my power to make it happen. I ended up printing pamphlets, sending out instructional videos, collecting cover charges, vetting people to make sure they'd been inoculated for every species that was going to be there. Talk about taking your work home with you. We tried to enforce a two-species-only rule for group scenes, but it wasn't followed. It's a miracle nobody got hurt.